We are recording the interview of James Coffman. This interview is being conducted by Keturah Edwards and David Berry from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University in the Veterans Military Center. It is 12/10, August 16, 2017. Okay. Where and when were you born?
Okay, well, let me start with my parents first. My history.
Okay.
My history they're from Mississippi. I have three older siblings, a brother and two sisters, were born in Mississippi. In the 1920s, my parents crossed the Mississippi in a covered wagon, came all the way to Arkansas, and they stopped. And my next sister was born there. And after she was, my father left with the three older siblings and went to California. Later to San Marino, California, where he found work. And later on, my mother came and joined him. In 1926, my next little sister was born. And 4 years later, I was born, 1930, June 25th. He worked for a company, Henry Huntington is a land company. He had a mansion there in town, and they had orange orchards, they had hay fields, dirt roads going by the house, and other relatives joined us later, but I grew up there for 6 years. I go up in the barn and play with the catch mice at the barn. And when I was 6 years old, we moved to Pasadena, California, where the Rose Bowl is. I grew up there during my years. In 1941, World War II broke out. I lived there till I was 19 years old, and they had a air show out at the racetrack, Santa Anita racetrack. Large crowd, and I went out there, and they had the rides and everything, and they had a P-38 made a low pass over from March Field, and that sold me on the Air Force. I always wanted to be in the Air Force. So I grew up, and I was 19 years old. I decided to go in the Air Force, and that ended up 20 years later. But
Okay, so you mentioned you had three brothers. Did any of them serve in the military?
I had two brothers and four sisters.
Two brothers.
Yes. Yes, they both served in the military. One was in the Navy. My brother was in the Air Force. He flew 16 missions in World War II. He was in the D-Day. He was flying his 16th mission, and he was shot down. And he was evaded the Germans for a while. The French hit him out. And a couple months later, just before it was a couple months later, or 4 or 5 months later, he was betrayed and turned into Gestapo. They went to prisoners in Paris, and he was there on the last train before Paris was released. The Germans took him to Buchenwald. It's a concentration camp. And he spent there until, Hitler had ordered them executed, and 7 days before he did the execution, the Luftwaffe pulled him out and took him to Stalag Luft 3, a prisoner of war camp, where he stayed until 45, the end of the war. But I had cousins, and everyone in the Air Force. I was fortunate. We lost nobody in the war.
That's good to hear.
So what happened when you departed for training or boot camp?
Well, I decided I wanted to go in the Air Force at 19, so I wanted my birthday, June 25th. So I signed up, but I wanted to spend my birthday before I went in, so they set me to leave the 27th of June. So I said, let's celebrate my birthday, 27th of June. I left LA on train, going to San Antonio for my boot camp.
And how was training back then?
The training was good. It was, you had a lot of things. You had everything, although just about, not as much as now. It's a lot more sophisticated now, and they have a lot more weapons now, but we had basically the same training then. 13 weeks at the Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. It was interesting. I met a lot of people there, made a lot of friends. And then from there I went to Wichita Falls, Texas, for A&E training, A&E training, armaments and electronics. So training for different kinds of aircraft. I mean, all kinds of your electricals, your hydraulics, your fuel, and maintenance on aircraft and everything. And after 13 weeks, they had a specialized course, an additional 7 weeks on B-36, the largest plane. So I signed up for that, so I put an additional 7 weeks there and graduated in June of 1950. And I went to, on leave, and then I went to Fort Worth, Texas, to Carswell Air Force Base. They had 3 squadrons of B-36s there.
So why did you choose the Air Force?
Well, before I went in the Air Force, when I was 17 years old, I joined the Naval Reserve, and I had weekend meetings and 2-week cruise on an aircraft carrier in the summer. I didn't want to swim, I didn't want to walk, so I decided to do something I'd fly, which you can get shot down or get hurt there too, but I just enjoyed flying. I'd do it to the Air Force.
Was there anything that motivated you to join the military, like the attack on Pearl Harbor or FDR's speech?
No, I just wanted to serve. I just always felt I love my country, and I just wanted to serve, and I decided I'd serve. And I always felt I remember in World War II, and I'd feel proud whenever they play the national anthem or something like that. You know, I'd stand attention, but it just made me a feeling that I wanted to serve. And so after the first 10 years, it got downhill then, so I just stayed.
Do you recall any of your instructors in boot camp?
No special, it was Sergeant, Buck Sergeant, 3-striper. He was real nice and real friendly, and they have to be rough on you, you know, and make you have to be used to taking orders, you know, you have to do, and you can't question, you have to, I mean, as long as it's a legal order, then you have to obey, you know. Mm-hmm. So you get used to it after 13 weeks.
Okay, so how did you adapt to military life?
It was hard, it's long, you know, you spend a lot of hours away from the family, you miss your family a lot, a lot of TDYs and travel. And I was in SAC, Strategic Air Command, for 16 years, and of course they had the worst divorce rate of any families, you know, and it was just hard because you're always gone. And you had what they call a EWO bag. EWO bag, it was a bag packed up with all your emergency equipment for, say, cold weather gear or desert gear, stuff like that, a big bag, and if they'd call you in the middle of the night and you had to grab that bag and run. Your family you'd leave and they didn't know where you were going. You'd be gone for 30 days or more, and then come back and you couldn't talk about it. It was classified. But that was during the Cold. The first 20, I was in 20 years. My 20 years, I was in for the first 20 years of the Cold War, and you had to be ready to go at any time.
So while still in boot camp, how was the food and the social life?
You get used to it. There's certain things you like, certain you don't. But you sit at attention at the table, you know, and march to and from the mess hall and go in, sit down, and wait till everybody's ready and get your meal in order. And there's good food. I mean, may not be everything you like or what you're used to at home, but you got used to the military food.
Okay, so once you said you'd done your B-36 training, where was your first duty station at?
That was Fort Worth, Texas, Carswell Air Force Base. They had Convair was right across the field. You could look across the sea. That's where they build all the B-36s. Looked like about a half mile long. There's just a string of B-36s going through. They start and build up and push them out the other end. And they built all of them there. And we had three different squadrons. We did two different squadrons, 7th Bomb Wing and 11th Bomb Wing. And then I was in the 7th PMS, 7th Periodic Maintenance Squadron. I was in maintenance is when I started out in my first part of the career.
Did you serve abroad? Well,
Well, not at first, no. I was just, I spent my first, well, the first year I was there, 1950, June of 1950. I met my wife, and I was, let's see, I got there in 1950. I met my wife in 1951. We went together for a year, and we were married in May 30th, 1952. Then I received orders and to go to Roswell, New Mexico, which is another B-36 base. So I received orders in June, and November I went down ahead of time. She stayed. She was working to get a. She was expecting her first child. She stayed to get her Christmas bonus, so she stayed. It's 500 miles, and I drove back every weekend for 4 weeks until Christmas. And then she moved down to Roswell, and rented a house down there at that time. And same thing, another squadron, B-36s. I was there from 1952 to 1955. And then when I was going to get out, so I got out in 1955, and we moved to California, and I got a job there, and I worked for about, let's see, from June till January or February next year. And I come up with some kind of reaction to gasoline or something. I worked at a gas station, and that's so I decided to re-enlist. I re-enlisted in the Air Force again in March 1953, yeah. And our third daughter was two daughters were born in Roswell, New Mexico. And then when I got to California, 53, no, let's see. It was 56, I guess. January 1956, my third daughter was born. Then from there I got orders in June of 1957 for Bermuda. So the whole family packed up and we went to Bermuda. Well, we were stationed for 6 years until 1960.
so when you went back in, did they make you go through boot camp again?
No, I didn't have to go through boot camp. I didn't have any, I lost my time and grade, but I kept my rank, my stripe. So I was staff sergeant at the time, so I kept my rank. Came back in. If it had been over a year, I would have had to have gone back. I would have lost it, but I kept my rank. I would have lost my rank if I'd have stayed out more than a year.
So what motivated you to go back in?
Well, I had trouble. I had that reaction to kind of had to go see the doctor. Reaction to gasoline or something at where I worked. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided to go back in. So when I did, I had 1950, 49 to 55, yeah. I had 6 years in. I went back in, and then I had 10 years after that next tour, so I had over halfway, so I decided to stay for 20.
What were some of your duties during while you were stationed?
Well, the first part of my career, I was a lot of maintenance and mechanic. I worked. We had a dock. We had a periodic inspection on the aircraft. You have we have a pre-flight and a post-flight inspection before and after a flight. You'd inspect the aircraft. Then every so many hours or something, you'd go into a dock. They'd pull them in a dock, and you have an extensive. You would open up the panels, take them apart, look inside, check everything. It's a lot more extensive inspection every so often. Then other ones, you have depot inspectors, send them back to the depot, and they take the wings off and the engines off and everything, and a little even more strong over the top. I was just on the docks and working. Then we'd have TDY, temporary duty, somewhere they'd fly on mission, say fly combat, or they call SAC combat evaluation mission. You'd fly out and they'd test the bombers, see if they could fly over and practice bombing our different cities at night and everything. We'd support the aircraft doing that. So we'd go and perform maintenance on the aircraft, keep them flying.
So what was your next duty station after New Mexico?
New Mexico, well, New Mexico, I got out for 9 months, and then I come back in. Then I come back in and went to Marshfield, which was there in California, 50 miles from my home. In 1956, I went back in, March 1956. And I changed, got off B-36, I come back on KC-97 tankers, the 4-engine refuelers, the one to refuel the airplane in the air. I was there at the squadron there, 2 squadrons there, 22nd and 320th. 2 squadrons of 97. I was there until 56, until 1957, and I put in the volunteer statement. I said I'd like to try overseas, to England, Japan, or China, something like that. They come up with Bermuda. That's good, so I got to take the family out. So I packed. I had to go ahead. You had to have quarters first, so I got orders. I went and shipped over, got quarters over there. Finally I got quarters, rented quarters, never got them. Then the government paid, brought my whole family. At that time I had 3 daughters, my wife, and she flew over with us, and we had quarters from there, 1957 till 1960, and. It was nice there. It was really nice. The weather was beautiful. Kind of bad to have a hurricane alert. I'd have to take the airplane and evacuate and fly them state, and the wife would have to stay there. So I had a friend in the fire department stayed on base. She'd moved in with them. They took care of it. You get up and go swimming in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. We're inside Bermuda, is a coral island inside of a reef, and the bay, go down the beach, and nobody on the beach there. 6 o'clock in the morning, go down for a half-hour swim, get dressed, go to work.
Sounds really relaxing.
Parties all the time, and then a lot of friends, a lot of military there. So, it's an interesting story there for a little over 3 years, from 1957 to 1960.
Did you go anywhere else after that?
After that?
On Bermuda?
Well, no, we were stationed there for 3 years. Well, we'd fly a mission out that we were refueling. B-47s would leave the States. They could get refuel once they got in the air, and McGuire had Squadron 97. They'd refuel them. They'd fly over Bermuda. We could top them off there as they passed over. On the way across, they'd cross over let's see what the island out there. Another island over there before you get across. There's another squadron. Some that's in 2 or 3 squadrons. Sent a couple of planes out ahead, about 20 planes there on alert, and they could refuel them passing there until they get them to Spain, the Azores. And so we just refueled them coming over for 2 years, 3 years. And then while we were over there, they started having alert, Cold War. We started putting airplanes on alert that have certain, depending on the world situation, how grave it was. Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 airplanes at a time standing on alert. They were refuel, ready to go in case of war. They launch weapons, we could take off, refuel the bombers going across, and they'd be covered. We start pulling alert there, and then you're on the planes on alert duty for 7 days or 14 days at a time. You didn't do any flying. You're just alert and ready to go. Crews are standing by right there at the edge of the ramp, ready to go. And then after that, it was we had. As long as I was on KC-97, we had full alert duties. I was there till 1960 when I got orders, and then we had some temporary duty. There's a couple of planes come over from McGuire in New Jersey, and the flight maintenance chief on the flight line told me, he says, "I'll see you, and when you leave here, I'll see you in McGuire." And I said, "No, you won't." Where'd they get my orders? McGuire Air Force Base. So I left there, went to McGuire.
Did you witness any casualties or destruction on the aircrafts?
We had a lot of different things, yeah. So trying to think. Well, I had a lot of them. I heard about a lot of them, and I know friends that could have been involved. I had a friend in Bermuda. He flew the KB-50. That's a tank, weatherbird that flew the hurricane route. He flew those. He was a flight engineer on that at the time, and he had mission. He had supposed to fly one. He didn't fly. A friend of his took his flight, and the plane crashed and lost a friend. So that's one of different kinds, all different service, different kind, different periods of times, or different accidents. We'd have different crashes, different ones. Like I had one was after I left McGuire. They had one that I got orders to go to before I got out of, before I went to Vandenberg, I got orders to leave McGuire. We had a plane there after I left. They had a plane there and went up to Harmon. That's in Newfoundland. They had a base up there with the KC-97s. And I didn't go on that flight there. I heard later I got a crash report that one plane was shooting touch and go. You land and then you don't just stop, you just advance fire and take off again. Well, they landed and they had reverse thrust. They landed and they jammed the throttles forward. Come out of reverse, two of the propellers stayed in high, low blade angle. And they didn't get enough thrust and they run off the end of the way and crashed in the lake and burned and sunk there. So lost a bunch of people. I knew the people, but I didn't know the name. But I knew the different crew members that had flown, and I didn't get the names of the crews on that. I just read the report of the crash. There's other accidents that happened. I lost a lot of friends in Vietnam or different crashes. I can explain them later.
What was the biggest difficulty during your time period of the Cold War that was
I got to give credit. A lot of people don't give credit. The wives were military too. My wife chose to stay at home and raise the kids and that shows up how my children grew up. She stayed home and they had to do without too. And we had people outside doing the same job we did twice the pay we did for nothing. You had to go and in New Jersey at McGuire, I don't know if you're familiar with TDY, temporary duty. I was TDY 280 some days. 1 year I was gone from home, not there. And you miss your growing up with children when they're growing up, and you miss that. And I'd still do it again, I did it for the right reason. But, something you have to do, and she has to put up with you gone. And while in New Jersey, my twins were born. That's fifth and sixth of my children that were born. And she almost had a nervous breakdown because that's one time I was told in that 280 days I was gone, she had to raise six children by herself. So it's hard on them too, and it's just hard, and you do without. You have to learn to do without a lot, but you have support of all the other military. So it's not a tear, it's just my tear duct running over.
So how did you manage to stay in touch with family and friends at home?
They had Mars radio station. I didn't use it that much. Once in a while you could call Mars radio station. You could go then, they could call on the phone and get a connect on the phone for a short period of time. You couldn't talk too long. But we were pulling alert duty. Well, like I said, Bermuda started pulling alert duty. I come back from McGuire, pulling alert duty there. That's where I was gone. 1 week, 1 month, maybe 2 weeks the next month, the next 6 weeks, and 1 month, 2 weeks. It's shit. I had an assistant crew chief. I would go for 1 week or 2 weeks out of the 3, and I'd go up, he'd relieve me the second week, and I'd go back to third. Then the next month, he'd take the first and third week, and I'd go third. So you get 3 weeks out of 2 tours, you get 3 weeks up at Goose Bay, Labrador. And you're on alert. You up there, you're strictly alert for the whole week of time. You have 20 airplanes sitting on alert there, ready up to northern Canada. Up there ready to go to war in case you had them. They had them all over the world. They had alert teams. And the more severe the threat was, the more airplanes on alert. And the Cuban crisis happened when I was at McGuire, and they put every base they had went on alert. The whole 20 aircraft was on alert, and we just sat there waiting, ready to go. We were within about 3 minutes of World War III. But lucky it didn't happen.
What kind of friendships did you form while serving, and with whom?
Friendships?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were the people you work with. I mean, they were saying, you all signed you signed a blank check for up to and including your life, and then you're ready to die if necessary. If you had to, you knew you weren't planning on it, but you had to, and you knew you could die at any time in there. You knew you could go to war. It took them 16 years to get me for war, but we were ready to go at any time, But you have friendship, and you're on alert duty, and you sit around, and nothing to do, just sit around waiting to go for the klaxon to go off, sit around talking, joking, and friends, and you get to know each other's family. You have cookouts and parties and everything together, and you meet others' families. And you're just like you're almost closer than you are your own brother and sister. I left home when I was 19, and I hardly ever saw my brother and sisters after that, except when I go home on leave. So it was more or less extended family, you know. And every base you went to, you made new friends. And you never forgot your friends. I got a friend now that I still keep contact with. A friend that my wife stayed with in Bermuda. He's my same age. He lives in Georgia. And I've got another friend that lived, her husband's gone. She's in Idaho. Her husband died. He's on that, fly those KB-50s at Weathership. She lived across the street from me in Bermuda, and I'm friends with her. I keep contact with her all the time. I got two friends. One of them's the president of our association. The other one's a friend that I shared a villa with in Vietnam. We're having a mini reunion here in September. They're coming to Dayton. And I have friends in the DFC Society. I belong to the DFC Society. A lot of them are two close friends. They're coming to a meeting Thursday. And of course, Greg, I'm going to have come. He's good. He got me on my honor flight. But I mean, you have the same experience. You have the same problem. You know, they're putting up, they're doing without, and you're getting substandard wages for other people getting twice what you get. You know, and you have to get by. And we got friends that you get in trouble, you help out, you help each other out, just like family. And you don't forget the friend.
Okay, where were you when the war ended?
Vietnam War ended? World War II.
Yeah, Vietnam.
World War II?
There was
Which war? The Korean War, the World War II, Vietnam?
World War II, and then go into
okay, World War II first.
World War II, I was in Pasadena, that's before I went in the Air Force. I was there from 1936 to 1949 when I went in the Air Force. I moved, 1936 I moved to Pasadena. I was there, grew up. In 1941 the war broke out. It was over in 1945.
Were you glad that you joined after the war was over? Or
yes, after World War II was over, I joined.
Were you glad that you missed World War II, or were you?
Well, I was, 1941, I was 11 years old. I was too young to get in there. In 1945, I was only 15. I was a couple of years too young to lie. A lot of people lied about their age at 16. You know, I was tall for my age. I was over 6 feet tall, but I was too young looking. You know, I couldn't join. I would have joined if I'd have been able to, but I just would have missed it by a couple of years. You know. But I mean, you know, I didn't know that much about it. Well, I was, by 1944, my brother was 44, 45, he was shot down. I was at summer camp. He shot down on my birthday, June 25th.
Wow. And
I found out about it. But my book, his daughter wrote a book, Boots from Heaven. He was shot down, and the French found him and hid him out for a while, you know, for a few months. And then he was supposed to take him to made a plane to bring him back to England. And then the traitor turned him into Gestapo, and he took him to the prison in France. And he was there until just before they liberated France, the last train out of France, he was on there. They took him to concentration camp. He was there. Hitler ordered him. There was 86 Americans out of 100 people in the concentration camp. Hitler ordered them all murdered. And the Luftwaffe wanted their people treated well in our prisoner war camp, so they come and pulled all these people out and took them to a prisoner war camp. That saved his life. So. He had a lot of relatives in the war, and I was lucky we didn't lose one of our family members in the war. And too many people did. My brother was the only one that had the worst. I'm thinking he even got hurt or anything. You know.
And how was it when the Cold War started coming to an end?
Well, the Cold War was kind of. When I was stationed at Carswell Air Force Base, we had to pull a guard duty. They were still war scared. That's 4 years after the war was over. But they were still gun shy, you know, so we had to pull, you had to pull tour duty, you go out, put a rifle loaded and ready to go, and you march up and down the night out there, and you had the guards all over the B-36 airplane. You were on each one guard, and you guarded, had a corporal of guard, you'd come around and check on you, bring in, relieve you and everything, you know. We had to pull our own duty, but that was 49, it was started in the Cold War. We were worried about it, and it was on for till the 90s, I guess. I was in for 20 years of it. I retired in 70, and it was still on till 1990 when Reagan got them to tear down the wall.
Okay, so how about the Vietnam War?
Vietnam War. We were there for the right reason, but the government wouldn't back us. I mean, I hate to say too much about it. I don't say anything derogatory anymore, and I have to, but they just wouldn't do it. They're trying to run the war from Washington. You can't do that. I mean, you can't. We were over there, and we were flying electronic warfare. We were low and slow at 1,000, 1,500 feet above the ground, and we could plot the enemy, and we could pick out an enemy coming toward the camp. You could not call in a strike on that enemy until you got permission from a village chief. By the time you get permission, the enemy's gone. And you can't do that, and them trying to run the war here and tell you what to do from the states here, it just can't be done. And you can't win it just from the air. You got to have feet on the ground. It's a shame. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of people. You can't help it. The war's always been a way. You can't do it without, you can get superiority and give protection to people on the ground, but without them on the ground, you're not going to win the war. So like I say, I come back and they wouldn't let me go in the war, and I only had a couple of years to go, and I wasn't going to go back and die, so I put in my papers.
So when the Vietnam War started, how did you feel? Where were you at?
That was, well, I'm trying to remember exactly when I did start. We were there in 1950. I was at Carswell Air Force Base when the Korean War broke out. And I can't remember exactly when that was over, but, well, I think when Kennedy was sending people over there in 1962 or 63, wasn't it?
I think so.
He was 62 or 63, he was sending his advisors, they called him, 62 or 63. But I got my orders in 1966. I was at Vandenberg. I got my orders. It's just I got a slip that said you got orders for Project Phyllis N. You got 24 hours. You want to accept it or turn it down? Well, I could turn it down, but my career would have been over if I'd turned it down. Well, I wasn't going to turn it down, so I said yes. So next day I started clearing the base, getting ready to go to survival school. But that was later on after I got to Vandenberg. But we were there for the right reason. I knew we were right there. They were trying to take over communism, trying to take over the world, and we had to stop it. If you didn't stop it, just like World War II, if we hadn't stopped it, you'd be speaking Japanese or German right now.
With having 6 kids, how did your wife feel about you getting orders for?
Well, when I got orders, let's see. Well, I went to I'll cover this later more in depth. After I went through flight training, they told me that they built 3 squadrons of airplanes. They had to redo them all, redo the engines, redo the engine down to 0 time and everything, put new electronic equipment on the plane, so they built them. So we went through flight training and everything, ground training, flight training. Then they said, "Go on, wait. They pick people to ferry crews over. You're going to ferry an airplane and go home. We'll call you." This is September 1966. "Go home. We'll call you when your airplane's ready." I went home and they didn't call me till February. I said, "There's no leave time or nothing, just sitting home waiting for an airplane." They were building it up, and as they build them, they call different ones. "Come get the airplane." They build them, rebuild them in New Hampshire and in Florida. Mine happened to be in New Hampshire. So I was at home. She said, "Let's go to Canada." I'll go. She'd go. She didn't want me to go, and I said, "I can't do that. In my life, my career would be over, but I just can't do it. I can't. All these other people go. If I don't go, somebody's going to have to go in my place. I'm not going to make somebody else go for me." So she wasn't too happy, but she accepted it. I took her home to her hometown. She stayed with her sister and family there. I was going to get a place out by my family, and I figured better by her family, so I moved her home. Government moved her home. I stayed there until I got my orders to pick up the airplane.
So what were your duties in Vietnam?
Duty in Vietnam? I was a flight engineer. This is flying, strictly flying. I had been a flight engineer for a long time then, and so they were flying the C-47 was the platform for doing the mission. It's the only thing could do it low and slow. So they picked people who had experience because they're World War II planes and nobody could fly them except World War II pilots. So when they first started, that's all you had was, unless you were Lieutenant Colonel, you couldn't fly in the left seat of the aircraft commander on the airplane going over there or flying there. We had to call people who went through jet school for pilots. The flight engineers had 8, 10, 12, 14 years. I had 16, 17 years in. They called in so you can get on there, you train and get on there, and then you train these young 18, 19-year-old kids. And after, we were over there for 8 years, after 7, 8 years, then you get the PFCN corporals that can do it, you know. You got to get it trained. Nobody had training on that type of airplane. So you were strictly flight crew, the flight engineers part of the crew. You couldn't fly the airplane all day and then work on it and maintain it, fix it at night, so you had ground crew who took care of it. You just flight crew, you'd be assigned a mission. You get up at the old dark 30 about 3 or 4 in the morning, go out to the airport, have a breakfast and everything, go go in for briefing. I'd go out and pre-flight the airplane, we'd go in for briefing. I'd pre-flight the airplane, go in for briefing, I'd go out and get ready, and they'd come out and go down and load your weapon, go out and get on the plane. Back then people come out and you crank the engine, go out and fly 7 hours. Anyway, they're always fragged for up to 7 hours mission. You could carry enough fuel for a little over 7 hours. A lot of times they flew 7 hours and 10 minutes and come back on fumes. But you had to fly 2 missions a day. One in the morning about 6 o'clock, the first mission, start taking about 8 or 10 airplanes. There's 5 or 6 airplanes, and then you'd be coming back from a mission in the afternoon's flight would be coming out to cover you. Each airplane covered a 100 square mile area. And you had 3 squadrons over there all over the base, and each one had that. So you'd have the morning mission, the afternoon mission. So you'd go out and fly your mission, and you'd come back, and then you're free. Sometimes you had extra duty. You'd have, we have a duty crew stand by to pick up, go home, and drive people back, take them home when they come back from mission, and pick them up and drive back and forth. There's like a tour every hour, would go in and drive around, and everybody knew where everybody lived. So if you had a flight, and if you'd someday, you know you're going to fly, sometimes you'd be assigned to drive vehicle. You'd take the vehicle home at night, you knew who was there. You pick up all the people flying the next morning and bring them out to base. Then you have a duty crew would take you home when you got back. You'd have duty crew.
What would you do out on mission? Were they combat missions or surveillance missions?
No, they're all combat missions, which they were electronic warfare. What we would do, we had the equipment that could plot the enemy. They were using old antiquated radios and everything. We had sophisticated, we could plot them, and they even knew the guys by the voice. They had a name for the guys on the ground because they could tell by the voice just who it was. They had codes, or they had voice contact, different kind, or they could plot them. They'd come up on the radio, they had a thing, they'd shoot a fix on them, shoot a line here. And they'd make an immediate turn, and they'd shoot another fix here, and another turn, and where that crossed, that's where they were. We were pretty close. And you could keep track of them coming down. You could plot and figure if you could warn people there's an ambush coming up or something like that. So you see, I looked out. It was different than being on the ground. You didn't see the people get shot and everything. I mean, you know it happened, but you didn't see it. We could plot a mission, and we could had a secure contact with the ground. They'd let the ground know immediately when they got a contact. If they wanted, you could call, and sometimes they'd call a strike. Well, we could see the strike where we just called a mission in. Other times they just let it go and watch and keep track of it. We could plot them coming down the trail and wherever they were going. And so we just fly the missions. When I first got there, it wasn't too bad. The first 3 months, it was maybe a couple missions a week, and then after about 3 or 4 months, I was flying about 3 to 5 missions a week. And I ended up with about 105 missions, about close to 900 hours flying time over there. But I got there. I arrived in country March 1st, 1967. March 9th, we were the first crew, the first airplane crew, lost a crew of 7 people. You don't, you have an apprehension when you're flying an airplane in and you land there. You see the country you land, you come in from over the ocean, you land out of the Philippines. You have apprehension, you know. You have to get the in-country check ride, get what they call a blood chit. It's a little silk sheet with a map of Vietnam, how to escape, and things that you could get people to help you. You have to have a check ride and that before you fly a mission. Well, I couldn't fly a mission from 1st till the 9th. And the engineer that met me when I brought my airplane in is the one that went down. And he invited me to go with him every day, and I couldn't go because I didn't have a check. And the ninth day he went out and didn't come back. I'd meet him every night and sit and drink beer with him waiting. But you sit around that, and then other days you get days off. You take an R&R a couple of different times. I took a week R&R. Went to Hong Kong one time. Went to CCK. Another time with a buddy and I went just to get away to relax for a week.
What would you do in Hong Kong to relax?
Oh, just went sightseeing. We were stayed in Kowloon. It was on the mainland side. Just to see China off the hill of China from Kowloon. If you watch where you're going, you want to get picked up by somebody. But sit there and catch the Hong Kong ferry, go across the island, and take a bus tour and go around the island. Just sightseeing. I had a suit made there and bought some souvenirs for the kids. Bought a couple of. I had a set of twins at home. They're about 4 or 5 years old. Bought them a little top and bottom pajama set, silk pajama set at home. And then wife sent me a picture later of a camera. She said the kid, and one of them, she said, they were standing outside the front door where I know she said the screen door, she sneaked up behind her window and said, "Let's scream, it makes mommy mad." So we bought things like that, and I bought a little thing that they made down the was for my son, different things for the kids. Just get away, just relax and not have to worry about that. And we had times there, we were feet on we lived off base. They didn't have enough room on base, so we had to have quarters off base. We lived downtown right in the middle of them. They had Viet Cong all around us, They didn't mess with us because they come into town. We had a hill about 4 or 5 miles off. They'd shoot mortar shots at the base at night. And a lot of times they'd overshoot the base and land downtown around us. You couldn't hide, and we were all on a slab. And a lot of once in a while they hit a billet where a GI would get killed. Which fortunately never hit us. But at night you could sit out on your front porch looking and see flares. They'd shoot flares up. They'd try to infiltrate the base. They had guys that worked in a barber shop at daytime, and at night they'd go out and put black pajamas and try to infiltrate the base. One day they went out and found a body laying there. There was a guy that worked in a barber shop. He got shot trying to sneak in. So you had to be careful when you went downtown, just watch where you went and everything. If you're going to eat downtown, sometimes you eat at the restaurant. We had a 100-mission party downtown, a beach party, a Korean beach house, and they cooked steaks. We had champagne. You go to a bar sometimes, and they'd bring and reach up and slip a Claymore wine over a wall and hang it there. And if you didn't notice, if you're in the place, you could get killed. So you had to be careful when you went downtown. But you couldn't let it bother you. You couldn't get obsessed with it. You know it could happen. You just be careful and you watch out.
Did it make you ever feel disillusioned or upset that the townspeople that you were trying to protect and help? So did it ever make you upset that the townspeople that you were trying to protect and help out were at the same time trying to infiltrate your base, like the barbershop or the barber? No, we knew what we were doing there. I mean, you had just like in the States, you got people that don't like what you're doing, this and that. You just accept them. They had people there that like that. Hey, people, they thought you were bad. You said, "You're number 10, that's bad. If you're number 1, you're a good person. You're number 10. They sometimes just say, they were just kidding a lot of it, but then we just ignored any of it. The only ones really bothered. The other people knew we were there. We were there for the right reason. We were there to stop communism. Well, just like Reagan. I mean, he got them to tear down the Berlin Wall. I mean, the Chinese, they was already just trying to take over the world, and we had to stop it. You don't stop it somewhere, they're going to be here, just like World War II. If we hadn't stopped that, we wouldn't have been here now. So you said that you got to Vietnam in 1967. So you arrived in Vietnam in 1967?
I arrived there March 1st. Yeah, we ferried the airplanes all the way. We picked up the airplanes, they got them ready. I picked up my airplane February, first week of February I think it was. I can't remember the exact date. First week of February, picked up New Hampshire. Flew from there to Kansas down to Amarillo, Texas. Amarillo, Texas down to Boneyard, Tucson. Tucson went up to Sacramento. Sacramento went to Oregon, Washington State. Washington went to Elmendorf, Alaska. Elmendorf was stuck there for weather 6 days. Flew there to Adak, out the Aleutians. 4 days there for weather, and then we went down to Midway Island, spent 2 days. The rest of the days from there, we went to Wake Island. Wake Island went to Guam. Guam, we went to Philippines. In the Philippines, we had to put two 250-gallon fuel tanks inside the fuselage to be able to make an 11-hour flight over water from the States to Alaska. Stopped in the Philippines, took those fuel tanks out, and then a 5-hour flight to Vietnam and the airplane there.
Wow. So you just took a whole trip around the world just to get to Vietnam. So you took a whole trip around the world just to get to Vietnam.
Well, yeah, our tour started, we left Washington State, our tour started, so we had like almost 2 weeks. I was combat duty. We were counting towards combat duty. We didn't care how long it took us. And that weather, and we were six airplanes bunched up at Elmendorf, and then the weather broke. We sit there and tell jokes and call in the morning, cold weather day, and can't go today, and pop a beer and drink and sit there and talk all day, and the next day we'll try again. We go, and a lot of people had trouble. I never had a bit of trouble the whole flight. I always good fuel and oil on it.
So how long were you in Vietnam? Or when?
I was there for 9 months. Yeah. My father had an aneurysm, and he went to the hospital, and his heart stopped on the operating table, and I got called 29th November '67. I was at home, and they come out from base and called me, and I packed up my stuff, and I went out to base the next morning. They took me on a mission airplane. I hopped on, put my stuff, hopped across the hill to Cameron Bay. They dropped me off, and I got a commercial plane and flew home. And I've been there 9 months, so after 9 months you didn't have to go back, and I wasn't going to go back. So, like I told her, after you go back every 18 months, everybody's going back for second and third tour. They wouldn't let us win the war, so I had a year and a half to go. My year and a half was up, and I still had a year and a half to go to 20 years. I put my papers in so they couldn't send me, because I wasn't going to go and die if they wouldn't let me win. And when people say don't win the war, then that tells me if they don't want to win it, and I'm not going to go die just so.
When the Vietnam concluded, how did you feel about the outcome?
We could have won it. We didn't lose it. We gave it away. We could have won it. Jane Fonda, you're familiar with her story sitting on that 88. They talked to that general in Vietnam after the war. He was ready to concede at those things there until he saw her sitting up there and the people protesting in the States and said, well, we can maybe win this. So he kept fighting. That was in the middle of the war, middle of those 8 years. If they had stopped, how many people would be alive today if she hadn't stopped that and they just quit? They continued on. And two, you're familiar with what it's like, you're familiar with the history of what happened when the guys were coming back too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even talk about it. My kids never asked, nobody ever asked, and I didn't bother to talk about it because we could talk now, you know, you can't sit with somebody that's not in the military, they don't know what you're talking about. That's why I have these reunions. I got, well, one of the four of us shared a villa. He passed away in 1995. Another buddy in California, he had a four-way bypass. I haven't heard from him for a year. He might have passed away, I got to find out. But the other guy that I shared a villa with is coming, and the president of our association, one from Arkansas, one from Florida, coming the 23rd of next month, mini reunion. Got 50 people invited that I know of. I don't know if at least 50% will be there. Have a cookout and a fire pit. That's the way to keep people. We get together and I have a DFC society. We have a meeting once a month. There's about a half a dozen of us that stay now. There's people getting older and dying off, you know, and the younger kids that have it don't want to join the society, so we don't have a meeting. So we have 5 or 6 of us have a meeting every third Saturday. Get together and just talk. In Alabama, you got people fly everything. We had a buddy that flew the SR-71 and the Black Mariah, and the other buddy flew a gunship in Vietnam. All together, probably flown a couple hundred different type of airplanes between everybody all together. So it's interesting stories about your own type of airplane you flew, you know, mission.
So I have a question. So you said you were on a commercial flight coming back to see your father. How were you treated on that flight?
Well, we were treated fine on the flight. It's just at the airport you think people would stand outside and they sat outside and throw bags of feces or urine at you and cuss you and everything else. I didn't have to go out of the airport. I was inside the airport, and my sister and I flew into Washington, come into across through the northern route, come through Japan to stop. I didn't get off the airplane there. Come through Washington State, and I changed plane, come into LA, never left the airport. And my sister and her husband met me at the airport, so I just walked out the door and right to the car, so I didn't see any crowd. So I didn't have to go through a crowd like a lot of people did. But I'm glad I didn't. I don't know what I'd have done, because I didn't want to disrespect the Air Force, but I don't know what I'd done if somebody had thrown something at me. Just after seeing my buddies die over there. And you'd asked about accidents before. When I got my orders at Vandenberg, California, I had to fly T-29, and there were two T-29. One was mine, one was another buddy. And we both got orders at the same time. He got them to fly on the Caribou. I don't know if you're familiar with the Caribou. The Army had a Caribou. It's a twin-engine plane. It was a cargo and low plane like that. He got a Caribou. He went to survival school before I did. I met him in survival school. He came back. He went on over to Vietnam. After I come back from survival, I went down to Florida to training school, and then I went up to California and or Wisconsin, my wife, to wait for 10 in September or November. His wife came through town, my hometown, my wife was, and he had been, she had let his plane down to the mountaintop. He was killed. So I could have got his orders and he got mine. It was just, you don't know what. No, I had different things. I had different emergencies. I had engine, losing engine, failed in flight, had engine fire, blow tires on landing. I never had any real serious. I had other friends at the station out here at Wright-Patterson before I retired. We had a plane flying a mission out of South Pacific in a 135 classified mission. Had what they call a greenhouse on top of it. They're coming back from there, and it had a, I don't know what they call where the plane just blows up in the air.
No.
Just let it come apart, and it blew apart over the Pacific Ocean out there, and they went down and lost over 18 people. I could have been on that if I'd have been in. I was retired, going to school just before I retired, so I didn't have to go on a mission. If I hadn't been going to school, I could have got that mission, because a friend was supposed to have the mission. His parents were having problems, so he got relieved, and another best friend took the flight. He was the one who was killed. I could have got the mission if I'd have been. We'd never know. If it's not your time, you're not going to go.
Okay, well, once you got out of the service, how were you received by your family and your community?
That's fine. I retired here at Wright-Patterson. I had, like I say, I had 20 in, and they would let me win, so I got out. And I'd gone to school. They did, before you, at that time I was starting with the Project Head Start. They let you release you 6 months early to go to school to train. So I went to school on computer programming. So I'd just go out once on a Friday or Saturday. I'd go out and make a round-robin flight. So I'd take a flight on to Florida and back on the same day. You know, the airplane just like that to keep a flight for about a month or so, and then they stopped that. And then I just stayed at home. I'd go to school, come home for 6 months. And the day I retired, I had to take off. I went to work the day before I retired, and I'd take a day off to go to retirement ceremonies. So I retired here in Dayton, Ohio. But finally, I did have a job, and so I went to work. It would have been a lot harder to try to move out of state and get a job and something like that. I did that before one time in early 10 years service, you know, but I didn't want to try at that age to go again. I was 38 then. And I had the job ready, been to school here and ready to go, so.
How was it readjusting to civilian life?
It wasn't hard. I'd made a lot of friends here because I'd been here since 1967, come back from Vietnam, so I'd been here 3 years already. I knew all the neighbors and had a lot of friends, kids, I had a lot of friends, friends. So I didn't want to move anywhere else because we'd lived in 22 different homes in 20 years in the Air Force, and I wasn't going to make my kids move again. That's the best experience the kids can have, you know, having to learn how to make friends and make new friends and everything. But they'd done it for all their lives, you know. I wasn't going to make them pick up and move again. They were entrenched in school here good, and I had a job, go to work. Why make them pick up and move again? So, just stayed here.
So since you've been out, are you a member of any veterans organizations?
Yeah, I joined several years ago. I'm a member of the VFW. I've been a member of that for quite a few years. I can't remember so many years, and I don't remember. I'm a member of the Distinguished Flying Cross Society.
What have you done since separating from the military?
Beg pardon?
What have you done since separating from the military?
Since what?
Separating from the military, sir?
What have I done?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, other than working, I have friends. I had a friend that, they're deceased now, but I had a friend that had a timeshare. We'd go with them to go to timeshares to Myrtle Beach or different places. We traveled my wife's home in Wisconsin. Her sister's husband, his father started a hamburger stand over 100 years ago, and I've been going there 65 years getting hamburgers every year. That's what we're going to have. One of his sons, one of his sister-in-law's son lives in town. He works there. He got a big pan that cooks 30 hamburgers in water at a time, and he's going to cook our cookout the 23rd. So we'll have that. We have parties, and I have 7 kids. I have 6 daughters and a son. I have 13 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, and so that keeps me busy. I have a daughter that lives in Florida with her family. She's got her husband and a son, and she's 2 grandsons. I got a daughter that lives in Delaware, Ohio. She's got a son and a daughter. All the rest of the kids live in town here in Dayton, so I see a lot of them. They have parties all the time. They come in for cookouts. We go to different houses. Just went with all my kids. I got a chance to go with all my kids, just my siblings along, down to Marco Island for a week here in May this year. That was great. So I spend all the time I can with them. And my wife and I used to go on a cruise now and then. I've been on 3 cruises with my brother-in-law and the family from Arizona. Mm-hmm. I used to go out to California now. I've been going out except for this last year was the last time. I'm not going to make it this year. Going out every year to California because my sister's 101, my sister's 91, and I go out there because I don't know how long they'll be around, how long I'll be around. And everybody, some lost some jobs, just started jobs again. I didn't have anybody to go with me. It's a little dangerous going by myself anymore on a trip, so my neuropathy, I have trouble walking. I don't need to fall, so next year I'll have somebody to go with me. I'll go back, start going back again to see how long my sister is alive and travel there, and then go out to eat a lot. I like to go out. I hate to eat alone, so I take the kids out different time anyway. I want to go, they go.
So you mentioned you were a part of the honor flight, right? How was that experience?
That's a great. I'd recommend that for everybody. Anybody that hadn't been should go because it's something of a lifetime. You know, I'd been to Washington before and I'd been to see the wall, you know, but I wanted to go again. And I took my son as my what do you call it, guardian. I took my son as my guardian so he could go. It's nice you can take whoever you want, you know. So. He enjoyed it too. He loved it so much. He's talking about maybe just going and taking somebody else sometime. I'd take somebody too, except I couldn't do it. I need somebody to take me, so wish I could do it. It's really an experience, you know, and see everybody get to go, you know.
Mm-hmm. How did your wartime experience affect your life?
I don't have any trouble that I know of, like people have. You know, the flashbacks and stuff like that. I don't know anything like that. It's just you're disjointed from it. You're in the air, so I could see what happened. We'd call instant strikes where we're still in the air. You know, you could see the fires from the bombs go off and everything. But it's not as much as if you're on the ground and see it. I mean, not like seeing somebody shot right in front of you and see it. So I knew people were dying at all time. I looked at it more as the people we were saving, because there's a lot of people died. We were 80% of the arc lights, the B-52 bombings, was our intelligence. We fed them what go on. They called this place that had been carpet bombed, that place with that, and the enemy hate that because they couldn't hear the bomb till they were falling, you know, they'd be on top of them and then be underground. So it didn't bother me that much because I knew I could die at any time, and then we lost 36 people in our two different squadrons altogether from different things, aircraft crashes, and some were shot down, and some were still MIA, they're missing and never come back, we won't get them. That bothers you, know, losing all those friends, but I just try to get on with my life. I was one of the fortunate ones that were able to come back.
What are some of the life lessons you've learned from the military service?
Oh, it's hard to say. I've learned what I know what it's like. I mean, the people always saying, I want to know what's going on here and on that. There's certain things they need to know and they don't. Everybody's saying they need to know, they don't need to know. I mean, I've seen what the military gives up. I know what they do. I walked in their shoes. I know what they have to give up. I know what their wives have to give up, and the family and the kids. You have to do a lot that other people don't know. But they're all one big family. So you all stick together. And I wouldn't trade all the friends I got for all the money in the world. I would never give up a friend. There's like an extended family, the whole family. There's hundreds of people I met in the 20 years all over the world, and I don't remember every one of their name, but I can remember different instances that happened in different places, and I'm still friends. From 1967 with a friend from Bermuda. I keep contact with everyone that I can. You know, over the years, there's certain ones I keep losing contact. I don't get answers back or something. No, I lose them out of my list. But I still got a big list of all the people I knew. And keep track of the ones I can.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general?
I haven't changed my feelings about it. I mean, war is a necessary evil. A lot of people die, but I know what it's like. I know what it'd be like if we hadn't have fought, and we were a pacifist nation until World War II. Japan attacked us. But if we hadn't have reacted to that and fought back, what would you have now? You'd be speaking Japanese or German. And look at what they did. They denied the Holocaust happened. I know it happened because I got a brother in the concentration camp. I know it happened. And that would be happening over here. You would have those people who were in charge over there running the country. That isn't what I want for my kids. And I wake up every morning, I don't hear any rifles or any bombs going off or anything. I can walk out the door. Oh, we have problems, but I mean, you're not like if you had a war. And we're free. And I only had one son, but I always hoped that they were still having the draft up, and I was hoping that he would never have to go, you know. Of course, then after they stopped the draft finally, he didn't have to go. But I think it's the best thing in the world. It's like these other countries, like you got these European countries over there, you got to serve in the military, and when you're 16 years old, you got to serve one tour in there, and every home in the country's got to have a weapon in the house. They don't have anybody trouble there because everybody got a weapon. It's like here, anybody, if you got a license to carry, they're going to think twice about breaking in your house. Every house in the country's got a weapon.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've got nothing against it. I mean, for the right war, you know, for the right reason, you have to fight them.
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview?
I'd like to say just stand up for your rights. I mean, we fought for over 200 years for our rights to be free, our right to do what we want to do. Don't give up those rights. And sticking your head in the sand and not fighting is not going to preserve them. Somebody's got to fight. There's always going to be losses. I still mourn all these friends that I lost. But I'd do it again. They're going to lose more. I have people for family dying. You know, I still mourn them too, but I mourn every one of those guys that I lost over there. And you're just like brothers. Family. So stand up for your rights and always remember too, everybody vote. Don't not vote just because you don't like it, and don't complain about it just because your side doesn't win. I mean, your side might not win. At the time, I vote for people who don't win. I still, if they're elected, I have to put up. I can't go whine and cry about it. I mean, I have to accept it because of people's choice. Whether right or wrong, if you believe in them, you vote what you believe.
Is there anything else you feel we haven't discussed or should be added to the interview, sir?
We pretty much covered it, I guess. It's a lot of years and a lot of hours. I think all my flying, I think I have about 10,000 hours. That's a lot of time enough to go to the moon and back three times. Round trips. That's interesting. A lot of interesting stories. I had out here, when I come back here, we were flying, they were getting ready to go to the moon, you know. I was flying that zero-G flight, the 135. And I was able to, fortunate, Buzz Aldrin, Armstrong had a habit to get airsick. Buzz Aldrin had wanted to make sure if he got sick that he could fly that lunar lander, so I went down the Friday before they went to the moon. Me and the pilot and co-pilot flew the plane down to Florida, flew him for 3 hours so he could practice just to see if he'd get sick, you know. And he autographed a picture of him and Aldrin and Armstrong and Collins, the three of them, a picture of them standing in their suits. I got it at home, autographed. Interesting to do that, and then we got to fly a lot of we flew a lot of the training flights, and they're learning how to, if they could climb on board the lunar lander, you know, in flight. You got about 15, 20 seconds of weightless flight when you're flying. It was an interesting mission we flew, and I've worked at the National Aviation Hall of Fame for 4 years over here before I couldn't run after the kids, and I got to meet a lot, not personally, but I got to see a lot of the people inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I attended 4 or 5 of the induction ceremony downtown. It was interesting.
Well, that concludes our interview. Thank you for your service, sir.
My pleasure.